There are some deaths on TV that just stick with you, not because they were epic or heroic, but because they were unfair. And in Stranger Things, that death was Barbara Holland. Barb didn't die saving the world. She died sitting alone at a pool party, forgotten by her best friend, yanked into a nightmare for no good reason. And just like that, she was gone. No grand send-off, no second chance, just another victim. But what if she wasn't? What if Barb survived the Upside Down? What if, instead of being a casualty of Hawkins' secrets, she became part of the fight? This is the story of Barb, the survivor, the girl who didn't die by the pool, the girl who came back with fire in her eyes. The air was thick with music and hormones at Steve Harrington's house that night. Upstairs, Nancy Wheeler had disappeared into a world of dim lights and whispered promises. Downstairs, Barb sat alone at the edge of the pool, hugging her knees, watching her reflection ripple on the surface. She wasn't even supposed to be there. The party wasn't for girls like her. It was for Nancy. It was for the popular ones. She popped open a beer, badly. The can slipped, cutting her hand clean across the palm. "Shit," she hissed, watching a dark red drop plink into the pool. She pressed her thumb over the cut, but the blood was already there, suspended in the water like bait. The porch light above her flickered once, then again. From the woods, something moved. Barb blinked. "Nancy?" she called out, standing up. No answer, just the sound of wind, or something like it, rushing through the trees. Her breath caught in her throat. Then the light blinked again, and the world twisted. With a wet, inhuman shriek, the Demigorgon lunged out of the air itself. One moment Barb was reaching for her towel, the next she was gone. But not all the way. She landed hard on her back, coughing as her lungs filled with damp, rotten air. She wasn't in Steve's backyard anymore. Everything looked wrong. The pool was drained and cracked. The sky was some endless, churning black fog. The trees were brittle and crusted over with sickly growths. It was like Hawkins had died and kept breathing anyway. Barb scrambled backward, hands burning against the slick, pulsing ground. "Nancy?" Her voice echoed, small and swallowed by the dark. There was no answer. She didn't know it yet, but she was in the Upside Down. The Demigorgon's roar came again, closer this time, and Barb shot to her feet. She ran. She didn't know where. She didn't care. She stumbled past a rotting fence, through dying shrubs, into a nightmare version of Steve's neighborhood. Everything was coated in that pulsing, veiny fungus that hummed under their feet. A flickering street lamp buzzed ahead, and for a second, Barb thought she saw a window to the real world. Lights. Movement. She charged toward it. It wasn't a way out. It was a memory. Just a distorted echo of the living world. Nancy laughing on a couch, completely unaware. Barb hit the glass and screamed, but it was like yelling through static. She pounded her fists until the light faded. Behind her, the growl returned. Barb turned just as the Demigorgon crept into view. It walked like a broken thing, head twitching, arms dragging, and it was close enough for her to see the teeth inside its flower-like face. Her body froze. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. But instead, she grabbed a chunk of broken fence and flung it at the thing's head. It didn't stop it, but it bought her seconds. She ducked into a collapsed backyard shed and jammed herself beneath twisted planks. The creature howled and tore at the entrance, but Barb didn't move. She covered her mouth. She counted her breath. Her dad had always told her, if you ever get caught in the woods, stay calm, think like prey, think smart. Barb wasn't dumb. She knew she couldn't outrun it, but she could outlast it. Hours passed, maybe more. She drifted in and out of consciousness, clutching her bleeding hand, praying it would stop attracting the thing. Her glasses had cracked when she fell, one lens gone, the other covered in fog. She was hungry, cold, soaked in sweat and fear. But she was alive. Eventually, when the growling stopped, Barb crawled out. The world was still eerie. The only light came from the pulsing fungus climbing the trees and walls. She limped along the edge of the woods, using her busted glasses as a shard to cut through web-like growths. Then, through the fog, she saw it. A massive tree with a gaping split down the center. The same one Nancy had found in the original timeline. A gate. Barb pressed her hand against it. She felt heat, heard distant voices. She tried to push through. But the portal was sealed. She screamed. She beat her fists against it until they bled again. The gate flickered, then dimmed. It wasn't ready to open. She was still trapped, but not helpless. Barb stumbled back from the tree and looked around. She was in enemy territory now, but she was learning the terrain. She was still scared, but there was something else boiling in her gut. Anger. No one was coming to save her, so maybe it was time she figured out how to save herself. The air in the Upside Down never felt clean. Every breath was a gamble between coughing and choking. Barb had stopped calling for help. Her throat was dry, and hope had started to feel like a waste of energy. She was limping now, her palm crudely wrapped in shredded cloth, her glasses barely staying on her face, but she was still moving, still alive. She wandered through twisted versions of familiar streets, houses she recognized, except melted and broken. Hawkins High was a dark mass in the distance, its sign barely hanging on the gate. And then, ahead of her, the towering outline of Hawkins' lab. The place loomed like a tomb. Even in the Upside Down, its shape held weight. Barb felt something gnaw at the edges of her brain, like the air was thicker there, heavier. She hesitated at the entrance, then crept inside. The halls were soaked in vines, pulsing and whispering like they were alive. Every footstep echoed in unnatural ways, like she was walking through someone's memory. That's when she heard it. Voices. Distant, but real. Barb pressed her ear to the wall. On the other side, she heard Dr. Brenner's voice, cold, clipped, giving instructions. Something about the subject and maintaining stability. Another voice spoke of the gate and the boy they couldn't locate. Will. Barb's pulse jumped. She wasn't alone down here. She searched the lab's twisted corridors and came across a small crawl space, one barely wide enough for her to slide into. The air was cold and tight, but something inside pulled her forward. She emerged into a hollow chamber filled with webbing. In the corner was a pile of blankets and candy wrappers, a backpack, a drawing taped to the wall with a crayon, Castle Byers. Will had been here, but now he was gone. Barb fell to her knees. He got out. That meant it was possible. That meant there was a way. In a sudden burst of resolve, she pulled a chunk of charcoal from the debris and smeared a message on the wall. Barb is alive. Maybe someone would see it. Maybe not, but it was all she could do. Back in the real world, Nancy Wheeler stirred from sleep, breathing heavy. Her dreams had been strange for days now, but this time was different. She saw Barb, not in the past, not in her memories, in the dark, trapped, calling her name. Nancy jolted upright. She looked at the clock, 3:17 a.m. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. At school the next day, she sat in the back of the library with Jonathan Byers. They flipped through a stack of Polaroids from his camera, the ones taken outside Steve's house that night. Nancy leaned in, scanning each frame. Then she froze. "Go back," she whispered. Jonathan held the photo up to the light. In the blurry corner of one image, the pool, half lit by moonlight, was a face. Not Will, not Steve. It was Barb, but wrong. Faded. Like a ghost. "Do you think she's..." Jonathan started. "She's not dead," Nancy said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "She's still out there." Meanwhile, deep in the lab basement, 11 floated in the saltwater tank, her mind reaching into the blank space she called the void. At first, it was empty. Then, a splash. Then, screaming. 11 snapped upright, eyes wide, choking on water. "She's there," she gasped. "She's screaming." Joyce and Hopper were in the next room. Joyce burst in, clutching Will's drawing. "Did you find him?" she asked. 11 shook her head. "I found someone else." In the Upside Down, Barb huddled beneath a collapsed filing cabinet in what used to be the lab's security room. She was freezing, shaking, but not from fear. From something else. She felt it, deep in her bones, that someone had heard her, and they were trying to reach her. She crawled to her feet and climbed to the lab's rooftop. From there, she could see all of Upside Down Hawkins spread out like a graveyard. And just above the fog, she saw it. A flicker, a glowing spot in the trees. The gate. In the Byers house, the lights began to flicker. One bulb popped. Then another. Joyce scrambled to her wall of Christmas lights. She stared as one section, near Barb's name, started flashing in a rhythm. Not random, not chaotic, intentional. It blinked ALIVE. Joyce turned to Nancy and 11. "It's not Will." Nancy stepped forward. "It's Barb." The two girls locked eyes. For the first time since that night, Nancy knew her best friend was still out there. Not just as a memory, not just as guilt, as a survivor. Far beneath the ground, in the shadow of Hawkins' lab, the Demigorgon moved. It had caught Barb's scent again, but this time, she was ready for it. The fog in the Upside Down was heavier tonight. Barb crouched low in the woods, heart pounding like a war drum. She could hear it again, the Demogorgon, its screeches, its footsteps, sniffing through the dark like a predator that didn't know how to quit. She pressed her back to a tree trunk wrapped in pulsing vines. She was tired, hungry, bruised everywhere, but she wasn't scared anymore. Not like before. She had a plan now. The gate was still pulsing faintly near the hollowed tree. She'd seen it from the rooftop and again while hiding in the woods. It wasn't stable yet, not wide open like before. But it was enough. Enough for her to get out, if she could survive the next hour. Back in the real world, Hopper and Joyce were gearing up. 11 had just confirmed Barb's position, somewhere near the original gate in the woods. Nancy didn't hesitate. She was going too. "She's my best friend," she told Hopper, loading a flashlight and a bat into her backpack. "If she's alive, I'm not waiting around this time." Steve tried to come along, but Nancy shut him down fast. "You let her go out there alone," she snapped. "You don't get a do-over." Hopper opened the back of the cruiser and nodded toward 11. "Kid finds the gate. We get her out. That's it. No hero stuff." But they all knew this wasn't going to be clean. The Demogorgon's breathing was louder now. Barb crouched in a shallow pit lined with fungus, clutching a shard of broken mirror. Not much of a weapon, but if she could just stall it long enough for the gate to pulse again. She cut her palm again, just a little, and smeared the blood on the tree trunk. Then she ran the opposite way, like bait. She darted through the trees, zigzagging through collapsed fences and patches of glowing, spore-covered ground. Behind her, the creature shrieked and pounced. It took the bait. It always took the bait. Barb ducked into a hollow tree and curled up, holding her breath. The monster skidded past her hiding spot and chased the blood trail deeper into the forest. Now, she had a window, maybe minutes, maybe less. Back in the woods, the group reached the same gnarled tree. The bark shimmered like it was breathing. Nancy stepped forward first, hand trembling as she touched the surface. "It's warm," she whispered. 11, focused, eyes squeezed shut, nose bleeding. The portal flickered. A pulse of energy hit the air. Barb, stumbling toward the clearing, saw it. It was opening. She pushed harder through the brush, ignoring the way the vines clung to her lungs, the way her skin burned from cold and exhaustion. She reached the base of the tree and slammed both palms on the gate. Through the rip, Nancy saw her. "Barb!" she screamed. The Demogorgon was coming back. Barb didn't wait. She launched herself forward, half crawling, half diving into the gate just as the Demogorgon's claw raked across her back. Blood spattered the air. Hopper grabbed her arms. Nancy pulled too. Barb screamed, then popped through the gate and collapsed on the ground in Nancy's arms. Her skin was gray, her hands trembling, but she was alive. The gate snapped shut behind her with a blast of wind that knocked everyone flat. Barb curled into Nancy's lap, shaking. "You came for me," she whispered, barely audible. Nancy held her tighter. "I should have come sooner." In the lab, chaos erupted. The gate had spiked. Readings were off the charts. Dr. Brenner ordered the area sealed, but it was too late. Hopper was already on the radio, sending out calls. Joyce stayed close to 11, checking Barb's pulse again and again, just to be sure. When they got her to safety, Barb gave them everything. She described the tunnels, the spores, the half-built nests. She told them where Will had been hiding, how the creature hunted, how it used blood to track. "I think it marked me," she said, voice low. "Like it didn't just want to kill me, it wanted to keep me." The room went still. The town didn't know what to do with the girl who came back from the dead. They tried to keep it quiet, of course. Hopper and the lab agreed to spin a cover story. Barb had been in the woods, disoriented, amnesiac. That's it. But Nancy knew the truth. And Barb, she remembered everything. Recovery was slow. Her nightmares were worse than Will's. She'd wake up screaming, convinced the walls were breathing. But Nancy was there, every night, every time. Weeks passed. Barb started walking again, eating again, talking like her old self. But something had changed. The final scene is quiet. Nancy and Barb stand in the backyard. It's early morning. The sky is a pale orange. Barb holds a wooden bat wrapped in barbed wire, like the one she saw Steve carry, but hers is different. Hers is earned. Nancy looks at her sideways. "You sure you're ready?" Barb nods. "I'm not the same girl who waited by the pool." She walks toward the woods, weapon in hand, eyes hard. "If it comes back, I'll be waiting." What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.